There's downtown Tulsa. We're obviously on the bagger today. Right now I am driving through Tulsa, Oklahoma. I feel like I just did a big circle. I am on 75 north. That's no good. I need to be on 75 south. Since our last installment, our subscriber count has rocketed all the way up to 21 subscribers. So thank you very much, 21 subscribers. Got a real early start this morning. It's probably on the road, I don't know, 4:30, something like that. 12:30 now. Just got done taking a little break, had a little McDonald's, and here we are heading south out of Tulsa. Did I just screw up again? Well, after too many wrong turns and some help from a local, we're at least back on the road here. Holy crap. So we'll get a nice little tour of Tulsa here. There's some tall corn around here. Look at that guy. Holy cow. I'm a little embarrassed to say I don't know what river this is. I pride myself on being a reasonably well-informed person. You'd think you'd know the river on which the fine city of Tulsa is built. Golly, look at that flag. Most states have horrible flags. Nebraska's is probably the worst. Oklahoma's is actually pretty good. That wind, I'll tell you. Here we go. South, 75, Okmulgee. Somebody from Oklahoma, if I'm not saying that right, tell me how to say it. But here we are, back south into that ferocious headwind. Get past this doucheball. Same guy that didn't yield to the on-ramp. Now he's going 10 miles an hour under the limit up here. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that wind buffeting. It is pretty crazy. So far on this trip, I have to say the bagger has performed beautifully. Very, very happy with the engine work that I did.
This is the...
When I first got this bike, the radio that was here, it didn't work. I came to find out later it was just an internal fuse tucked inside the fairing. But I went ahead and pulled the radio out anyway because honestly I just don't want a radio. I pulled it out and I had the idea of fabricating this little panel into which, as you can see, I installed a clock and a compass. The compass is like, you know, old school. It's just the kind that floats on the little pin and spins around and all that, and it's absolutely useless. It's never worked worth a damn. At one point, I had the stock front suspension on this, which has that solenoid in it that activates the air dive, anti-dive, all that stuff. I took that out and I put progressive cartridge inserts into the forks instead, because when I still had the air anti-dive in there, every time I hit the brakes the compass would go bananas because there's that big solenoid closing the valve and throwing out all that interference, screwing up the compass. Well, it still doesn't work worth a damn. You know, sometimes it's right, but you have no idea if it's right at any given moment. The clock is great. The clock is right on the money. This panel is actually just a piece of plywood that I covered with fiberglass and then painted. And I kind of have an idea of redoing that, but I'm not sure what I want to put in it. I definitely like the clock. I feel like I ought to have something else over there. That compass is a bad joke. If you got any ideas, tell me what I should put there. Another gauge. The other thing that happened that was kind of dumb is, you know, obviously that's where the speakers go, where those two holes are. So when I took the radio out, you know, I had the whole outer fairing off, and I saw the speakers sitting there, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to have a radio. No point in having those there anymore. So I pulled them out, and there was grills over these openings at first. What I didn't realize is that there was enough airflow through the fairing. Without the speakers there, the airflow just sort of blew the grills right off. One of them I didn't even notice when it happened. The other one I actually managed to save because it was hanging by a thread, so I just pulled it off, and I've got that back in a box in the garage somewhere. So I have this idea of, you know, fabricating something over here, you know, on either side that's either just purely decorative, or even kind of have the idea of having it where it's like a decorative thing that's also a button, so if you push on it, it'll activate the garage door opener. How's that for a cool idea? Figure out some way to actually mount the garage door opener, you know, the thing that's like in your car, mount it in behind there as part of this overall thing. That's kind of the idea anyway. So all this stuff on the dashboard, what's actually that's predicated on, I do have an idea of buying a 3D printer. I've been researching those dumb things for a couple of years because I've got some very specific ideas for a project that I want to do. The problem is, the things that I want to do are basically out of reach of the simple 3D printers that you see that are, available for, let's say, under $1,000. There's printers that can do what I want, but they're like, crazy money, $250,000. Well, that's not happening. What I want is what's called an SLA printer. That's the kind where it's like got a vat of liquid and then it cures it in layers. The end result is you get much higher surface finish quality, which is what I want, because I want these things to essentially be decorative pieces. I don't want them to look like, they're all strung up out of spaghetti, which is what the other kind of printer those are called FDM printers, where it's got like the thread and then the head goes around and it extrudes and squeezes out the plastic. Well, like I said, to me those things, they look like they're a bunch of spaghetti woven together. They're not good enough for what I want to do. But the problem is some of the parts that I want to make are relatively large, and SLA printers tend to be really small. You see all these stupid promotional photos where it's like, oh hey, we made a 3/4 inch tall figurine for some video game. Like, who cares? That's not useful to me. I need this thing to be big enough that it can produce, usable, decent sized parts. And my real goal is to use it to print what will eventually become casting molds, so we'll end up turning the print into actual cast metal in the foundry. No end of casinos down here. There was that great movie out a few years ago called Hell or High Water. Their big plan involved robbing banks in Texas and then driving up here into Oklahoma and essentially laundering the money through Indian casinos. So they'd show up with, pick a number, $50,000 in cash. Well, the casino's perfectly happy to take that money and turn it into chips. And then they would go and sit at the bar for an hour, cash out the chips, and get a check written in their name. I'm curious if that would actually work. It can't be that easy, right? If anybody knows the answer, I'd appreciate hearing it. Well, my previous video where I was swapping out the connector on that air pump for the air mattress I use while camping, the whole point of that was for this trip. But I'm embarrassed to say I have totally bitched out. I did not bring the camping gear. I actually have pretty good reason. Right now it's Friday, and the weather today is supposed to be clear, which it has been so far. The forecast for tomorrow morning all through the day in Palestine is like solid crazy rain. Like I said, I kind of wimped out, and I decided I'll just get a motel room for Friday and Saturday nights. Very rarely you make a U-turn. Hampton Inn & Suites, thank you very much. Thank you, Courtney. You were a sweetheart. Thanks for letting me put my bike under the awning. See you next time. So good morning. At the moment we are on the loop going around Palestine, Texas. For 4 years I've called this place Palestine, but got some local information on this trip, and the locals tell me the correct pronunciation is Palestine. Had a great time on this trip. This is the annual Evo Forum Texas meetup. Great bunch of riders, good friends, some really good guys. I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago I bought my first Evolution motor bike. That was a 1990 FXR. Ended up selling it on, but found this group on the Evo Forum, and they're just awesome. mean, I'm fairly good mechanically, know what I'm doing, I've been doing it for a long time, but there's always, you know, the particulars and the little tricks and tweaks and all that on any specific machine, and I've just had the benefit of an incredible education learning from these guys. I mean, there's guys that have been doing this stuff for 30 or more years, and they just know all those little nuances that you wouldn't otherwise know. I have much appreciation for all that they've taught me. Mainly, I just enjoy meeting up with them and have a good time. So we actually had a decent day on Saturday. We had a little shower while we were sitting there having lunch at the Pint and Barrel in Palestine, Texas. By the way, they got some good food there. So anybody who's ever in Palestine, Texas, get yourself down to the Pint and Barrel. It's a good place. Anyway, rained like crazy on Saturday night. I mean, major thunderstorms and all this and that. I mean, it was really going on. Right, now it is Sunday morning. As you can perhaps tell, it's cloudy, it's overcast, but it's not raining. And I was looking at the radar app, and as near as I can tell, I should be fairly good all the way. I'm going to change it up a little bit on the way back and cut over through Arkansas and Missouri, heading north. Mainly because, honestly, this is going to be a pretty long day. I've got, you know, a good 800 miles ahead of me. And doing the Arkansas-Missouri route, at least that means the last few hundred miles are just going to be going up 29. So I don't have to worry about getting lost or finding a road that I don't know where it is. And as long as it doesn't start raining on me, this weather is great. It's cool, but it's not cold. To me, the reason you have a bike like this, you just keep it forever. I don't understand the guys that, you know, buy a really nice, you know, the new, let's say a 2017 version of this bike. You spend a lot of money on that bike, over 30 grand for sure, let's say, and they keep it for like 2 years, and then the new model comes out and it's got, you know, new paint colors, and they just, I got to get me that new paint color, so they trade it in, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't get it. To me, the point of a bike like this is you just form this sort of permanent relationship with it. On a continuous basis, you're coming up with things that you want to do to it, improve it. Obviously, if anything ever breaks, goes wrong, you fix it. That's what's kind of cool about these old bikes. I mean, they're just solid as can be, and there's really nothing about this that you couldn't keep on the road forever. And that, to me, is just cooler than hell. Yeah, I just love these little towns. They're all, you know, kind of the same, but they're all different, too. It's just kind of fun, or at least I enjoy going through and just kind of seeing what they got going on. Fizzy Swig Specialty Sodas. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what I'm talking about. I just love that kind of stuff. You see these Valeros down here? Isn't that the Venezuelan oil company? Fuck those guys. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize to the good people of Valero, but for the moment I'm not taking any chances. Sulphur Springs 36, that's where we're picking up the interstate. Alright, well, we're pulling out of New Boston, Texas, Highway 8, which will take us to 41, which takes us to 71, which takes us to Mena, Arkansas. This little jog to the east that has taken me on this route also took me closer to the storm, but we're basically turning north now and the storm's continuing to move east. It was raining here, you can tell, not that long ago, but I think we're okay. We'll find out. So right now we're, knocking on the door of 200 miles into the day, which puts me roughly a fourth of the way there. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. I've never taken this route. On the map, I see some squiggly lines, which is nice, because those are usually the more interesting roads. Of course, we're going to give that back, because once we get out of Arkansas, we're basically going to be on interstate all the way into and through Kansas City, and then 29 all the way up to Omaha, and that'll be the end of that. And there it is. My practice on trips like this, I try to get behind somebody and kind of stick with them, unless they're going real slow, in which case forget those guys. But you know, this guy's going 65 on a 55 highway where the sign says no tolerance, so I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that he knows more about what's what around here than I do. Choctaw Bayou Relief, and that's something you aren't gonna see in Nebraska. Yeah, I don't think that's a lake. I think that's a flooded field. That guy's going to be waiting a while before he's getting anything in there. Yeah, just for fun on this trip, I set up the route to take me through Mena, Arkansas. If you remember, what was that Tom Cruise movie a few years ago? The Barry Seal movie, where he was the guy who's, at least according to the movie, the CIA set him up as a drug runner in Central America, running cocaine into the cartels and all this kind of stuff. And so he was breaking the law, but at the same time he was doing it under the authority of the CIA, and that was the Tom Cruise movie, and blah blah blah. Well, supposedly that's all true. I don't think the CIA ever has or ever would admit it, so mostly a matter of speculation. But supposedly his base was in Mena, Arkansas. Another Dollar General. I tell you what, it's amazing to me how people will buy absolute crap.
That is one big pile of shit.
As long as it's cheap. For what it's worth,
nothing.
Here's my philosophy on all that. If it's something that you use like on a continuous everyday basis, then, you know, by all means, you know, do anything you can to economize wherever you can, because that's the kind of stuff where, even though it's only a few dollars at a time, over an extended period of time, it really adds up. But the stuff that you expect to last, something that you expect to have around for 5, 10, 20 years, whatever, don't worry too much about the price. And a lot of people think that sounds insane, but I don't think it makes any difference really what's the price. For example, we just put a new furnace in our house. I expect that thing, the one that we took out lasted 20 years. I expect the new one will as well. There's lots of factors that go into making a decision like that, and of course price is one of them. But if one guy's at $10,000, let's say, what is that? That's one ugly dog. I thought it was a pig at first. Holy crap. One guy's at $10,000, the other guy's at $9,200, let's say. So there's $800 difference. Well, $800 feels like a lot of money, but over 20 years, it's nothing. You know, if you make the decision based exclusively on that $800, you might be making a mistake. Make sure you're getting the right solution, you're getting the right quality and all of that, because over a 20-year time frame, $800 just kind of turns into, you know, fades into the background. And that gets back to these Dollar General stores. I mean, there's nothing in there you need. It's all just crap. But it's like, oh my gosh, it's cheap, so people can go in there and buy bags and bags of crap, and they walk out, they only spent $20 or $30. So it's like, wow, I got this whole bag full of stuff, I only spent $30. It's like, yeah, but you know what? You're $30 behind, but you're really nothing ahead. I mean, look at the crap you've got. I'm a cheap son of a bitch, kind of happy to be that way. Buy what you need by all means, and when given the opportunity, buy something that you're going to keep with you forever rather than buying something that's disposable. And a lot of the stuff that the always present marketing machine,
Hi, Billy Mays here for Mighty Tape,
tells you that you have to have, you don't need. You know, there's so much freedom to be found in saying, I can live without that. And it's like people get a little dopamine rush when they buy something. Why? It just, you know, I don't get that. And God, you hear these stories about these people that are, you know, many, many thousands of dollars on their credit cards. And it's like, if you went back and looked at all the stuff that added up to, let's say, $5,000, it's like, how much of that is still with you? How much of that did you really enjoy? Was it really useful? because you still got the bill to pay, but it's like you're like literally paying for nothing at this point, because you just flittered it away on junk that didn't do anything for your life. Okay, that's the end of that rant. Yeah, this is kind of a nice ride in here. Kind of what I was hoping for. I'm really grannying my way through these curves because I'm just not familiar with this road. Last thing I want is to get surprised by something on an unknown road, but Lord, this is pretty down here. There you go. Got some flags going. What the hell? Did not expect to see a Maserati on a 2-lane highway in southern Arkansas, but we just did. How cool is that? Golly, is that an Arkansas thing or what? One guy on his four-wheeler, another guy on his mower, talking in the gas station. You know, it's kind of a funny thing how the weird twists and turns of life work out. And the only reason I live in Omaha is because in the late 60s, my dad was transferred to Omaha from Evansville, Indiana. And, you know, he could have just as easily been transferred to Little Rock, let's say. And would have put an entirely different chain of events in motion. But I like Omaha, but I also like Arkansas. And I'm very glad I took the opportunity to go through here today. This has really been nice. Anyway, that's going to be about it for my battery. So I will sign it off here. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Would very much appreciate that. Hopefully I'm doing my part, trying to deliver interesting motovlogs. So, until the next time, be safe out there, and I look forward to talking again soon. Take care.